I'm here with writer-director Rob Savage to talk about his brand new horror film, Dashcam, which is released in cinemas and on demand June the 3rd. Hi, Rob. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, mate. Thanks for chatting to me today. I'm going to start off by just saying that I absolutely loved Dashcam.
Thank
So
you.
it made me feel a bit sick
That's
in a good
that's
way.
probably a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in a good way. So thanks for that. It was genuinely terrifying and very creepy, but also very funny. So
Yeah.
um, all good. Did it come
I'm
together
so glad.
explicitly as a result of the initial success of Host, or was it something that you guys had in your head before that?
We had it in our head, but it definitely came together because of Host. Me and Jed had met up in must have been late 2018 or early 2019, pre-pandemic, and Jed produces Annie's podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and he showed me a clip of this show that she does called Band Car, where she drives around and she improvises music based on people's comments. And he showed me this video in it, and immediately I saw the potential. We both did. We saw the potential for a great kind of fan footage setup there, both in the band car setup, but also just in Annie herself, because she's such an unusual final girl that the idea of taking her and having her chased by a demon seemed like, I don't know, that seemed like a movie I wanted to see. So we pitched it around, and nobody knew who we were. This, we'd done some short films, but this was pre-Host, so it didn't really go anywhere. It sat on a shelf for a couple of years. Then Host came out and became what it was, and I signed this deal with Jason Blum to make some movies for Blumhouse, and he was like, "Well, what's the next one you want to make?" And we kind of dusted this off and looked at it, and it was like everything in it felt more interesting in a pandemic context. It felt like it was interesting to do a road movie at this time when the UK was just opening back up and the world was coming out of lockdown. It felt interesting to take a character who's so kind of brash and abrasive and put them in charge of an elderly woman who, all through the pandemic we were said, protect the elderly, don't go outside or you'll kill grandma. And it felt like everything felt really fun and kind of provocative in a way that it hadn't 2 years ago. So we decided to just jump right in, and we shot this in 2020, same as Host.
Mm-hmm. Apart from the obvious elements, how different was your approach to the filming process? And was there any reluctance whatsoever to do another found footage type horror film?
I wanted to do a found footage horror movie because I wanted to make a movie as soon as possible after Host. I didn't want to have to wait for ages to shoot the follow-up, and I wanted to shoot another movie with the team behind Host, but I wanted to do it for real in the same space as them, because we'd done Host remotely, and we were all on this creative high after Host and the success that it had, and so it felt like with the relatively, we got more money from Blumhouse, but still it was a relatively small amount. It's a very low budget movie. It felt like the best way to kind of top Host, at least in terms of what was on screen, was to shoot another found footage movie and to put that money on screen and not behind the scenes on trailers and cameras and lights. And this movie was shot with 2 iPhones. Every penny of it went on stunts and special effects and all that fun stuff that you'll actually enjoy in the cinema.
That's amazing. Well, you mentioned special effects there. What was the most difficult scene or sequence to film?
I think the most difficult sequence was probably the underwater sequence. There's an underwater sequence that we just really couldn't afford to do. We were so low budget on this movie, we couldn't shoot at an underwater studio or a tank or anything that's really set up to do this. And so me and the producer, our amazing producer, Douglas Cox, we were just like sitting there thinking like, how can we do this? And we kind of like both looked at each other and we're like, what if we just build our own underwater studio in, we shoot it, we could shoot it out in the with this farm in Norfolk that we were shooting a lot of the movie in. What if we just built our own underwater studio? And so what that meant is that we got a shipping container and we filled it full of water, and we warmed that water, because this was December or whatever, warmed that water with a heater, and then got a crane and we just lowered the car in, and then we just just got like bin bags and put that over the top to kind of block out the light, and that's how we shot the underwater sequence. And
Wow.
then so it was, and it was all health and safety checked, and it was all within the bounds of what was safe, but it was also not a way that anyone else would have attempted it. And I think there's so much stuff in the movie that a more fearful producer would have just put a stop to, but Douglas really would always he'd always work with us to try and come up with a solution.
Class, that's class. So you spoke about Annie a little bit at the start there. Let's talk about her a little bit more. She's the lead of Dashcam, and she's the star. It really felt like she was improvising a lot of the film. How much of her performance was ad-libbed?
All of it, pretty much.
Really?
Yeah. Well, just like Host. I mean, Host was all ad-libbed. We shoot these movies. Me and my team, we have an outline that's just bullet points. That's basically the A to B to C of the movie, so we know the shape and the structure of it, and then we really had to rely on Annie's wit and Annie's improvisational ability. It was one of the reasons that I did the movie, and that I decided to do it so fast after Host, is because I saw Annie's videos and saw how quick-witted she was, and I was like, oh well, she'll be able to handle it. And it became a lot about just workshopping the scenes day by day until we figured out what the kind of crux of the scene was, and then we built from there.
Brilliant. I'll be honest, I really hated her at the start of the film, which I think that's supposed to be, everyone's supposed to hate her. I think that's the whole point. But as the film progressed, I started to like her character, and I think that was mainly due to the fact that she's so funny. Like the humor in this really comes through, especially towards the second half. And the horror and the humor really goes together. Was that sort of a plan from the start, or did that just come naturally because of her personality?
I mean, I find Annie hilarious all throughout the movie. I think the gamble, and this hasn't paid off for a lot of people. A lot of people spend the movie wanting her to die from minute 1 to minute 77, which is fine. But to me, to me, horror is like a machine for empathy. You're always rooting for the final characters because they're being chased by somebody with a hatchet. Nobody wishes that upon their worst enemy. So the idea that you could start the movie with this character who a lot of people would cross the street to avoid, and by the end of the movie be rooting for their survival, felt like something that was worth doing, or worth attempting at least. And I think at this stage of where things are heading currently, I think it's a really good, healthy thing to be able to laugh at a joke made by somebody who has the opposite point of view to you. I think that's fine to do, and I think it's healthy to do. And I think if this movie makes you root for somebody who you would otherwise avoid, that's probably a good thing. And it's something that horror uniquely does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with you there. There's a lot of scenes, especially towards the end of this film, that's very reminiscent of the Blair Witch Project in the woods, and I'm assuming that this is a bit of a homage to that. Was there any other films in particular that served as an inspiration?
I wanted to do a creepy woods movie. Like, I've got a bucket list of horror, like things I want to do in horror. Like, I've always wanted to do a creepy woods movie, so Blair Witch was the reference for that, so we ticked that off. But I've always wanted to do a kind of like an over-the-top 80s sequel style movie, like an Evil Dead 2 or a Hellraiser 2 or a Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. And really, that was the reference for this. We were kind of on our best behavior with Host, trying to do something that was creepy and more kind of Paranormal Activity vibes. Whereas with this, we wanted to make a splatter movie. We wanted to make something that was kind of loud and obnoxious, and everything that Host wasn't. And so Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 was the movie I was always coming back to. Just the kind of the tone and the goofiness and the over the topness and the reliance on gory practical effects, whereas the first one was all insinuation. We kind of wanted to go the opposite way from Host on a lot of this. And so I've ticked off my splatter movie on my horror bucket list.
Awesome. You mentioned the demon a little bit at the start of this as well, or the creature. There is a bit of ambiguity about what the creature actually is.
Yeah.
It's some sort of parasite, possession type thing. Do you know the lore of the parasite, or can you explain any further about the demon, or is it better not to know that?
It's actually all in there. It's just not on the screen. It's in the comments. Like the interesting thing is, we started out with the idea that Annie would there would be some scenes where Annie would kind of like crack the plot and kind of come up with the solution, and it always felt like Annie's character wouldn't be interested in that. Annie's just like this whirlwind that goes from scene to scene, and stuff happens to her and she happens to stuff, and that's really what the movie is. And so we decided that a lot of that lore would go into the comments, that the commenters would be much more interested in the plot, would be much more interested in being armchair detectives than Annie would. So while Annie is just making her, her 100th dick joke, the commenters are finding police reports, and they're finding, similarities, and they're taking screenshots of things that have happened and analyzing them. And there are various links within the movie that you can actually type in and follow to see some of their working. And they actually kind of crack the plot way before the movie ends, and figure out some of the lore. But it's got its own kind of fully coherent enough mythology. It's just that Annie's got no interest.
That's amazing. And a bit like Host, it's definitely got layers to it, and the more you rewatch it, you'll discover things. So I'm anxious to rewatch it again now.
All of those commenters have their own mini arcs. If you follow the usernames, they each one of them goes through their own journey.
Awesome. So I love the set pieces as well. You spoke about the tank that he's built. I love all the stuff inside the car, obviously, and everything that comes with that. I'm especially enamored by the theme park, the carnival scene, the Hall of Mirrors. I assume that was there, or did you guys build that for the movie?
That was there. Just like Host, part of how we made this movie is we looked at what was available to us for within our budget and within the areas that we were shooting in, and wrote the movie around that. So we didn't know they were going to go to a theme park, but Uma, one of the Annie's co-lead, he lives in Margate, which is where we shot the opening of the movie, and that was only because we needed to use his house because we couldn't afford to rent a house to shoot in. So it was like, well, we're gonna be shooting in Margate. Let's go on a road trip and see what's around Margate. And there's this amazing theme park, Dreamland. So we were like, okay, well, they're gonna trip and stumble into a theme park at some point, and then we go into the theme park and there's a Hall of Mirrors, and so the Hall of Mirrors scene gets written in. It's really the whole film kind of unfolded organically like that.
That's amazing. That's probably my favorite scene in the whole film. That Hall of Mirrors.
Cool. We shot that like on day 4 or something. It was kind of pretty
awesome.
Crazy.
Right, well, I know you're a busy man, so I'll let you go. One final thing, I just wanted to say how much I love the outro. I think the closing credits is some of the best credits that I've seen in any film ever. So that was amazing. I really can't wait to rewatch the film. So best of luck for Dashcam. It's released June the 3rd in cinemas, and you can check out the trailer now.
Cheers. Thanks so much, Gavin.
Thanks, Rob. Cheers.
Take care.
Hi, I'm Annie Hardy, and you're watching Vancar. Another day in paradise. Hello?
Listen, I just need you to take my friend somewhere nearby.
This is Angela. Her and I taking a trip. Help! Did you find me? Oh.
Shit.
You should go see if she's alive.
Hello? Hello? She found us! She's here!
What? Hey, what was that?
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, what the f***?
Where are you going? Where are you going?
Ah!